I hope you had a good day. You had as much fun as we all did. Now, without wasting any more time, you've heard the introductions. Both of these folks are amazing. I'll talk to them. I'll ask them questions, and then we'll get to know them a little bit more. My first question actually is to both of you, and we'll probably start with you, Harsh, and then Shantanu will come to you. Is a question that I have been asked, so I will say it verbatim. Okay? There is this one junior engineer who came to me and said, I don't know what you do. There's only so much design reviews one can do, right? What do you do beyond that?
Okay, thanks for putting me on the spot. I think one of my mentors a long while ago, and this was a leadership meeting, and he chose to use he used this term to introduce himself. He said, "I am a minister without portfolio." So I think that probably describes all archetypes of architects, senior engineers, whatever you will. But I think very broadly, I believe the role that we play is actually marrying business customer needs to technology, right? I think we are that bridge. We, apart from all the other stuff that we do with regards to stakeholder management, which by the way isn't very visible to folks a lot of the times, but for me, I think we thread that needle of saying this is what the business needs, this is what the technology can do for them, and then we help build that path. So that would be my one-line response, very broadly.
Shantanu?
Well, I do what needs to be done. And what that means is I will code up something when it's needed. I will go pick a fight with Samir and Rahul when that is needed. Generally, I will always be looking at the product from a customer point of view and providing feedback where it's needed. Have discussions and run large year-long projects in the tech org because that is needed, and organize hackathon, because that is also needed, because holding the culture of the company and making sure the engineers feel at home, and keeping people honest. So yeah, wear the hat that needs to be worn.
Very, very interesting. So, what I'm hearing, and this has been sort of my experience too, is that this role encompasses so much more than just being an individual contributor, right? You're talking to stakeholders, you're pushing back when it needs to, you're building consensus, you're doing a lot and a lot, right? Now, some of the folks that I worked with, when they choose the path of an architect in a lot of companies, they choose it because, oh, I'm not a people's person. I know that's not true for both of you. You're both amazing with people and amazing at all of these other things that we talked about. But when someone like that steps into an architect role, what do you do? Shantanu, question to you.
I see, for me, the answer would be a little different because I have architects reporting to me. So I can create an environment conducive for that person to work, right? But generally, what I feel is the way people look at, say, for example, architect in most companies, they sort of expect them to be a bridge between tech, product, business, and so on and so forth, which typically forces or maybe requires those people to be a little bit more breadth oriented and more extroverted, from morning's discussion. But I think in a company there is need for a lot of depth oriented people, and at least in PhonePe, the way we basically solved it is to have two equal and parallel roles. One is a staff engineer, who we have depth-oriented people, and we have the architect role, which is a little more breadth-oriented people. Both of them are leadership roles, right? but the expectations we have from these two roles are different. If you want, I can give you an example. Um, like we have a person who basically heads the cluster FS team, right? So he handles all of the storage services and whatever we have in the company. He also handles the cluster FS project. Though my expectation is for him to contribute more on the open source side, but he also leads the internal storage team, right? Being the internal storage team is a platform team, so he does have to interact with a lot of other people. But yeah, the expectations are somewhat a little bit different from, say, for example, an architect in the payments team, right? Where you would have a lot more discussions with business and product and so on and so forth. So
That's very interesting. Harsh, do you have a similar experience or something different?
Similar. So I think, at least for the largest part of my career at Amazon, it was very similar. We did have a formal demarcation of a breadth-oriented principle and a depth-oriented principle. And that actually stemmed from the very need to say, hey, folks are not feeling not incentivized to grow to the senior IC ladder because they believe it is a role that demands, again, being an extrovert, being able to manage a lot of stakeholders, when some of them are actually, they just prefer to be in the weeds of the things, right? And we quickly realized that, oh no, if we are to be a technology company that gives success and pleasure to the customers, we do need to invest in the depth as well, right? But back to your original question, I think whenever somebody is faced with this dilemma of, hey, should I even do this or not? I think the question I would pose to them is, you have to first go back and ask yourself, where does your passion lie? If your passion is problem solving and technology, I think that's it. Like that probably is telling you where your real calling is. And then figure out the rest beyond that, right? Like thereafter, it is all other factors, which is what do you enjoy doing more? What kind of hats do you wear more comfortable? And this is where the breadth depth also helps them to be an IC while still being able to do stuff along the people side of things that they probably do enjoy, or if not, then be a depth engineer.
Hey, thank you so much. I think that should help a lot of people in mid of their careers who are still thinking about it. That it's not just a breadth role. It is there is an optionality, right? You
Absolutely.
could either go breadth first or depth first, or any combination of these two. By the way, right? Because most of the times, like the roles are falling somewhere in between these two extremes. Shantanu, you want to add something?
and no, mostly like everything else in life, right? It would be somewhere inside, like Praneeth, our cluster FS guy, would actually look, if there is a major outage, he would come in. He's really obviously good at Linux internals by virtue of his being storage guy. So he will actually join in some outage calls, go a little and help a little bit on the depth side of things and so on and so forth, right? So yeah.
Thank you. That's an important point, right? If you do decide to go deep, then you actually have to go deep, right? You then you can't cut corners on getting into those trenches and understanding whatever your problem space is. Let me shift gears a little bit. Harsh, the question is to you. I know that your last few roles have been, and same is true for Shantanu as well, have been roles of influence, right? You've had a designation or a support system that sort of gives you the influence over a lot of decision making, whether it is business direction or tech. What do you think differentiates you that allowed you to play this role, or that allowed you to get that influence, which a lot of other people in these roles don't get the opportunity to?
Sure. I think there's two or three things that, and I do this like self-introspection. So I think there's two or three things that have helped me propel forward. I think one has just been the curiosity element, right? Which is the desire to know more than my prescribed portfolio, if you will, right? So if I'm an SD1, I would not just be happy with the current task at hand, but I also want to know about the services that we own. If I'm an SD2, I also want to know about, hey, beyond these services, who are calling them, what services are they calling, and the overall architecture. So I think I've always kind of tried to see one step forward in my career in terms of the ladders, right? The second one, I think, is this desire to land an impact, right? And this is either in terms of, can I build more understanding of the ecosystem? Can I get more sense of why business is asking for this, why customers are asking for this? And then therefore, again, back to the point of being able to apply tech to solve for that. And two, at the same time, I think being very, very hungry for creating an impact. And so it's a two-edged sword. There are times when I've burned my fingers as well. But I think it has also helped me get into the right rooms, get in at the right point in the conversations, because people know that I'm hungry. And so I think those two probably, I think, would be the key elements.
Amazing. Shantanu, how about you?
I think knowing stuff definitely helps. Okay. So
Double click on stuff. Knowing tech, everybody like in this role does. What beyond tech?
it depends. Okay. Knowing stuff, as in, I was talking from the tech perspective only, not dirty little secrets which you can use to, twist your way into something. The thing is, you'll be surprised at how much people don't want to learn, and how dogmatic people are about a lot of stuff. I'll easily walk into office every morning thinking, okay, maybe I'll learn something new, and I've learned so many things from so many people. And that's, I think, one, okay, you should be okay with learning, and you should be okay with your opinion not always being the right one, or your solution not always being the accepted one, and so on and so forth, right? And the other one I would say is basically agency. It is important, I think, to have agency. It doesn't matter if it's your career or if you're trying to build your business or whatever it is, but sitting somewhere without agency, nothing will happen. Okay, it's perfectly okay if you want to take this as a professional job and put in the time required to fulfill the commitments for that job. You should have your growth expectation should be adjusted according to the effort you are putting in. Okay.
Amazing. That's super powerful.
And yeah, I'll just finish off my chain of thought. Agency is basically turning up. Sometimes just turning up is actually really important. There are days where I have optimized almost to have no meetings. I will turn up to office. Somebody will catch me in for a discussion. And I think those are the best days I have in office nowadays. So turning up is actually really important. Okay. So I think, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I hope folks here are taking notes, right? What both of you said, it also somewhat parallels what we heard in the morning, right? With both Rahul and Dale mentioning curiosity and then being able to sort of have strong opinions, of course, weakly held, but having those opinions and agency. Amazing. Let's shift gears once again a little bit. A lot of things that we do, right? We learned over the years. We learned after years of coding, and then we said, okay, coding, you've sort of graduated to making those design decisions and clarifying what the spec should look like. Now, if you cut back to the previous AI DLC discussion we had, now Bhavesh was saying all of that has to happen because coding is no longer the bottleneck. So the junior engineers today are kind of getting pushed into thinking of those things now. They don't have the luxury of going through those 5 years, 10 years of just coding and then graduating into it. If you were somebody who's 5 years in today, what would you do differently from what you did when your own time was there? Shantanu, I would like to start with you.
Okay. See, I am gonna answer your question in a little bit different way. I have been doing this for a while. Okay. I built my first PC in 97, and I've been in this industry since formally since 2005. I have seen a lot of products succeed. I have seen a lot of products fail. I have almost never seen a product succeed or fail by the velocity of writing the code. There were a million other reasons. How fast or how slow somebody wrote the code for it did not matter a single bit in whether that product succeeded or failed. You have to understand what you are looking for. Are you looking for output or are you looking for outcome? Okay. I like to focus on the outcome rather than the output or the throughput or velocity, etc. of the output. So I think a new engineer should be doing exactly what we were doing, focusing on the basics. Okay. Like you can't beat the basics, right? Tools will come and go, technology will come and go. I was a C++ engineer. Anuj knows.
Me too.
Anuj knows I walked into Flipkart, a full C++ guy. The only thing I had to do there was basically to write Java code. So, yeah. Was
Harsh, what is
basically
your
about
take on this?
I think very similar, and I would again qualify by saying I think I would do exactly the same. I mean, contrary to the popular belief, I was never somebody who fell in love with a particular coding language or a framework. I always saw coding as a means to an end, and I think for me it was always the curiosity as to what is it behind this whole thing that is actually making it work the way it is working, right? And so I remember early days of Amazon when I was very fortunate to join at the time when AWS was still being built, and we used to have these internal tech talk series where the senior Ps would come and talk about how S3 has been built, and then I think even at that time I would like really spend hours just thinking about, oh, this is how they thought about a distributed system, and these are the kind of failure modes, and those are my takeaways. And I think I would still go back to for junior engineers to say, peel under the layers, like really understand the core concepts, start to build your palette for pattern matching, because that is what you're going to do for the longest part of your career. And that's back to Bhavesh's presentation earlier. You cannot have a healthy conversation with the agent if you do not know the patterns. And so start viewing code as a means to an end. In fact, at Intuit, we are jokingly starting to use the term that start to treat your code like cattle and not pet. And I think that's very much the line is which we have to go.
That's very, very interesting. And I have a slightly different take on that and love to hear what you think, right? While we are saying, I agree with what you both mentioned in terms of peeling the layers and sort of understanding how things work. But coding may not be a skill which we would need, right? We've seen shift happening wherein people will stop writing code. We are thinking about building all kind of harnesses around it. And Shantanu, you might relate to this. This makes me think of the electronic design automation world, right? Nobody looks at the netlist. It's just the tools which are generating that netlist. The code will become that netlist. And the spec will become the next abstraction layer. That's my speculation. I would like your take on, both of yours take on it.
I mean, people are still writing it like RTL, So while there are tools which basically, I was actually working on a synthesis tool which takes a for loop and generating a circuit out of it. So yeah, they have existed for a long time, right? And that didn't basically stop people from still looking at the RTL to optimize it. It depends on what you are doing. Okay. For a lot of stuff, we don't actually look into the code, but for a lot of stuff, we actually look at the assembly that is generated by the compiler. So yeah, you kind of decide which layer you want to work on, and what do you think about it. If you're working with a high level, etc., you are okay. But one thing I think is after a point of time, you will probably, if you are not practicing it, the capability of steering something will also become a bit of a issue. Okay, because you are inherently working with a non-deterministic system and expecting a deterministic output. While compilers can be in certain cases a little non-deterministic, but mostly they will generate the same thing almost every single time, right? So kind of need to know. And it would be good as a junior if you don't raise a 10,000 line PR and expect the senior to make sense out of it, right? And learn what to do and what to send, and even like generating the code, like generating the code correctly to the extent, like to generate code correctly, you would also need to know a certain set of stuff, like you were saying, right?
Yeah.
You need to know what to prompt. You need to know what to guardrail. In the last presentation, there was a set of guardrails, right? While I didn't see anything around performance, etc. But yeah, you would actually need to know what to guardrail. To a lot of people, it is looking easy because they inherently have the knowledge. He has the knowledge to do it. Okay, he can tell exactly what to write and what to not write. To him, it looks like the code is redundant, but he has the knowledge because he has been doing the code. Okay, that is a problem. So you have to should kind of, again, going back to the last point, stick to the fundamentals, learn the craft.
Yeah, that I kind of agree with. I think you've spotted it sort of correctly that it may work for majority of the cases, but when you do want to get the best out of your systems, whether it is in terms of performance, whether it is in terms of scale, there is no two way about getting into the internals and actually knowing it. So those optimizations will not happen at this abstraction layer for sure. Harsh,
Can I qualify that? Yeah, I think there's a 3 to 5 year horizon answer to it, and there's a 5 to 10 years or beyond, right? I think what we're saying is absolutely true for the next couple of years, right? And this is where tools will need time to learn better. Humans will need to know how to work with the tools better, and I think that whole ecosystem will need to mature. But and again, I think as history has taught us, over time we will find a code becoming, of course, more and more of a commodity. Where for the largest part, you probably will not even care about the most performant code, right? A lot of applications may not need that, and that's probably how the world will start to move. But also, the tools will start to get smarter, wherein they will incorporate all the feedback that we are giving to them, right? But I think what is not going away is the fact that there are going to be higher order problems to solve for, which today we are not able to because code is such a huge, expensive affair. So the art of problem solving, I think, is here to stay, right? And again, back to borrowing the example on egg and heat, right? You will still need the knowledge. You will still need the human angle to say what is it that should be built and how should it be built. And that I don't think is going away anytime soon. And for me, I think that is the durable 10 years horizon thingy, wherein yes, you need to know your fundamentals, because how else do you tell what to build, what are the right ways, what are the trade-offs? But with regards to the tools being fragile and all, I personally think is a problem that will probably keep getting better in the next couple of years.
I think in some way we're all agreeing that the tools are going to change what we focus on. While the key skill of problem solving, pattern matching, that is going to stay. But what shape and form that problem solving and pattern matching takes is changing, right? And
Absolutely.
coming back to like when we started, for all of us, I'm sure the transition to thinking problem solving at a level beyond code came a little later, and it's coming much faster because of these tools for the folks who are in the industry in their early stages today. With that shift, where do you think there is going to be a difference between what a junior engineer needs to do versus a senior IC?
I think that whole element of senior junior, I think, is gonna evaporate soon enough. Is my sense, right? I think we're gonna start to see a lot of distillation, wherein those archetypes will start to disappear. I think we're gonna go back to the craft itself, right? The ability to reason well about the problem statements, the ability to have high judgment in terms of what works, what will not work. And then I think a lot more being able to close the loop in terms of when things don't work, what is the path forward from there on. So I think judgment is what is really going to be the demarcation for senior, junior, if at all those terms will be there. But I think, of course, the current ways of a junior writes code, a senior thinks design, a super senior thinks org-wide alignment, all of those I think are not going to be there.
That's a fairly controversial take, Shantanu. Do you agree with what Harsh is saying?
Few things here. Okay. One is the assumption that we have even a vague idea of what is going to happen in 10 years. If you think about what happened, what was there 10 years back versus what is there now, I think it's a little bold.
Okay.
Number two is the assumption that performance won't matter is a big problem because hardware is not getting faster in the way that it used to. Hardware is growing more parallel. Okay. And unless we, like GPUs, for example, are inherently parallel, right? And the way basically what happens is the framework that you use to write code for GPUs, they force you to think parallel. Unfortunately, the CPUs have also become parallel where we have servers with 256 cores and so on, 512 cores, multiple NUMA nodes and so on and so forth. But most of the CPU-based software, we are not thinking parallel for a lot of situations. That is inherently why basically somebody will go on Twitter and brag okay, the Windows run dialog comes up in 94 milliseconds, okay, which is really, really fast. So it is not, by the way. That is for 10, 11 FPS, okay.
I am with you on that.
Yeah, so basically that, and yes, judgment is the thing, but judgment, in my opinion, needs to be backed by evidence, and some of the calls, see, senior, junior, it doesn't matter. I agree with him, okay. It's not about, like we don't, for example, have a designation thing in PhonePe kind of. We have architects for architect role. We have software engineers. That's about it, okay. There's nothing else. There's no level, etc. also. So, yeah, but the thing is, some people have seen things happen. They can look at a log statement or a particular spike on a particular graph and say, okay, this is the issue. You cannot eliminate that. You might think you can eliminate that with some tool, you just cannot. Okay, it hasn't happened in any other field. I am not sure why we are convinced it is going to happen in software. Okay,
So
I really don't understand this thing, that why people think like software engineering is the only thing that needs to be optimized and needs to go away and so on and so forth. We were writing slop before AI. We are continuing to write slop after AI. Okay, that won't change. But just saying that everything can be collapsed into smart autocomplete is basically a little reductive. Okay, that's my opinion.
So you've sort of heard both of these voices, right? And Shantanu, just to my takeaway from what you just mentioned, right? It's not the number of years of experience, but rather the experiences that you have had that
Yes.
build that judgment, right? So no
Agency,
matter
right?
where you are in your career journey, that curiosity to see beyond what is sort of told to you to be done, or what is your allotted work, and that having those experiences, that is what is going to build the judgment, and that's going to be important.
See, this ties back to that agency thing. You have more
Yeah.
agency, you turn up to more situations. There is no getting away from that. You will turn up into more situations, you will learn more, and you will have better judgment over time. It is a logical follow through from that point.
Yeah. I can go on with my questions, but at this point, I would like to take a pause and take some question from the audience if we have any. Can we have a couple of mics here?
So you said that all the roles will collapse and there will be no know difference between a junior IC, mid IC, and a senior IC. Like I still don't understand why. I think a senior IC will always exist who will give the direction, who will do actual thinking, and ultimately, basically, the coding part has collapsed into like code has become cheap, but thinking has not, right? So we have moved to the left, that we are doing spec driven development. So the spec will be ultimately written by the senior ICs, right?
So let me qualify firstly. By collapsing, this is really more of, hey, will the organization sufficiently perceive all these levels to be the way they are with the current archetype definitions, right? Wherein that's why I said, do you have a notion of what an SD1 does to what an SD2 does and all the way, right? I think that is bound to shift, right? Everybody is going to give specs, everybody is going to use tools to produce code to get an outcome, right? The differentiation, like we said, will be in terms of judgment. And judgment will, of course, come from your own lived experiences. And so that is the only thread in some ways which will distinguish a senior from a junior. Now, how you label it and all will evolve, right? Some organizations, like Dale mentioned earlier today, may choose not to have these differences, but internally you will know that who should be called upon for a high stakes decision, who should be called in to lead a very ambiguous problem versus who can just execute well. But the notion of, hey, design problems are relatively strictly for senior engineers, coding problems are strictly more for junior engineers, those are the boundaries that I think are going to dissipate.
Yeah, I think I would say the liberty that we had when we were growing up, a lot of people who were our peers, I don't know how you operated. I was also very similar to Harsh that you mentioned in terms of curiosity and sort of always looking at what's happening beyond my role, no matter where I was. But there were a lot of people who could just survive by doing what they were told to do.
Yeah.
I think that is the option that's sort of going away.
Correct.
Right? Just doing what you're told to do, that is what agents can do. So that is the option that's going away. Not to say that the jobs are going away, not to say that the world is like completely changing. It's just that you have to start thinking sooner. You have to start exploring and being curious sooner than you had to maybe 10 years, 20 years ago. You want to add something?
No, I mean, like, see, I don't think anything has fundamentally changed. The really good people were always curious. They always had agency. And it will continue to be like that. Okay. And as I said before, right, if you want to turn up, do your small allocated part and go away, yes, maybe that will become a little bit more difficult. But yeah, at the end of the day, the outcome in terms of career basically remains the same, in that in 99% of the cases, the output you get is proportional to the effort that you put in. Okay.
Lovely. Any other questions we have?
I have a question. Sorry. Hey, folks. But I think, this is a question I keep struggling with. And, folks like you have taken a decision somewhere down the road that you'll want to be an IC, and, you're a change of like you're increasing your sphere of influence and, agency in the organization. But what is the one thing you think you are missing out on? You didn't become a manager. Are you seeing a lack of force multiplication? What are the things that you think are probably things that you wish or you don't have now because of the position you're in?
Okay, career tempter, I am a manager as well. So, besides writing code, so I think you should take this one.
Yeah, I miss being privy to people's compensation numbers. But on a real note, and I think a lot of time it goes back to the organizational setups and to the point I think both Rahul and Dale were making earlier in the day, which is if the organization structures do not put senior IC at par with the management or the leadership, there may be times when you miss being in the room or part of the conversations where, in hindsight, if I were armored with this information or if I were in that moment at that time, I probably could have changed the course, or I probably could have emerged a lot more knowledgeable and would have done things differently, right? And so I think that is a very, very key aspect in terms of, again, organizations really thinking of senior IC as a fundamental pillar and supporting their growth and making sure information asymmetry is avoided at all costs.
And I think that that's going the way Indian software industry is moving. Maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago, most of the senior IC roles were those depth roles. These days, even startups who have a 30 people, 50 people engineering team or even smaller, when they hire senior ICs, most of the times they are thinking of these roles as very much senior leadership roles. And these are not just depth focused roles. I hope that answers your question, Bhavesh. Any other questions?
So I have one question here. Last few years, if I look back at my life, majority of my learning has come from work experience, right? Whether it be something that I have done or something I do it for office. So I don't want to put a number to it, but it's a significant part as compared to what I have studied and learned outside of my work, right? And sometimes I'm worried about that. Like as we grow, do we really have to rely only on experience to learn something? Because just reading a book or an article or a blog will never be enough for me to actually gain the expertise on that. And maybe I won't have the exposure to work in the different fields that I need to get to a certain position or a yeah, I think position would be the word, but it's not a destination that I'm talking about, but in a place where I know enough to take larger challenges. So how much of it is experience? How much of it is very explicit learning?
It's a mix. I have learned a lot of things working on personal projects, and maybe 2 years down the line found a problem that we hit in wherever I was working, where at least the theoretical part of that could be applied. So I mean, learning is learning. It's better not to pigeonhole your learning. Okay, this is something I'm learning for myself. This is something I'm learning for whatever, for office and so on and so forth. So try to absorb as much of information as possible from anywhere, right? So, yeah.
One thing I would like to add is that my experience has been very, very different. Even though I have been an IC, I grew up not doing any personal projects. But I had a slightly different way of learning, which was putting myself in projects that I knew nothing about. And that's where I sort of kept on
That's the best way to
upgrading my
learn.
skills. So there are multiple paths to it. The only constant I would say in everybody that I come across who's at a certain influence level or a certain I don't want to call it like the ladder level, but coming back to the only constant has been that they've all been learning one way or the other. You always have to keep that open.
Can I just say I'm so relieved to hear that, because I used to be the only one so ashamed of sharing my GitHub. Now I know there's one more partner in crime, because for me it's same. I have never done personal projects. I've done very, very few, and rarely have they been to say I want to learn this thing. I think I have learned my best on the job. And same, anytime I felt my learning was taking a hit, I would just look for opportunities either within the organization or outside. Most of the times within the organization. And of course, the good part is as you grow a little more senior, you get a lot more autonomy, a lot more liberty to kind of start to look across the board, and then you can choose your problems. But I think, again, underpinning all of it is the curiosity element, whatever medium you choose. And I fully agree. Do not try to pigeonhole to say, oh, I must spend 15% reading blogs, 20% doing self-projects, whatnot. Just grab it from wherever you can.
See, do whatever works for you. Just make sure you're not stagnating in terms of growing your skills. And if I have to drill down like one key takeaway that you take from this discussion, for me, it would be that curiosity. Curiosity is the only thing which we've been talking about in the morning panel and this one, which will help you grow. And with that, I would like to thank you both. It's been a very interesting discussion.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank you
continue
for
the
having us.
discussion later as well. Thanks a lot.